Howdy folks, Neil here. Today I'm going to test 7 variations of the Clove Hitch to see which one is the most secure. Now here are a few of the knots that we're going to be using. This is Ashley's book of knots. The first knot is going to be 1245, the Clove Hitch. And the Clove Hitch has a reputation for being not very secure. In fact, I was quite surprised how quickly I was able to loosen these knots. The next knot is 1243, the ground line hitch, also called the sack knot. Fishermen will oftentimes use this knot on their ground line. So it's basically a clove hitch, and then you tuck the last one underneath from left to right. And it's not super secure. It was getting hung up on the end of the cord there. Our next knot is 1244, the bag knot. It's also called the Spar hitch. And it's very similar to the ground line hitch, but it goes through the opposite direction. I would consider it to be an equal. 1243 and 1244 are very similar knots, and they have similar holding power, in my opinion. It's a decent knot. It's a mild improvement on the Clove Hitch, but not all that secure. The next hitch is not found in Ashley's book. It's called the Spar hitch. It was actually invented in the 1980s. And all it is a clove hitch with an extra half hitch. I have no doubt that Ashley actually tied this knot, but he just didn't include it in his book. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter what side that you tie the half hitch on, either the left or the right side. But I try to tie it the way it's illustrated. Let's try that again here. The Snuggle Hitch seems to be the most secure hitch of all that we've tested so far. I think adding a half hitch to just about any knot greatly improves the knot. That's one of the conclusions I got out of this test. Now the next hitch that we're going to tie is the Constrictor hitch, 1249. And this hitch is notorious for being a forever knot. If you pull on it too hard, it can be incredibly hard to untie. I personally have not experienced that. I've always been able to untie it just fine. But apparently if you really put a heavy load on it, then it can bind to the point where you can't untie it. Sometimes that's kind of a knot that you need. You know, if you're doing some lashing or something, the constrictor knot can be just the ticket. But in this test, it didn't actually do that well. Our next knot is the double constrictor. And all you're doing with the double constrictor is you're just adding one more loop. It's tied, other than that, it's tied the same way as a constrictor. And it has a reputation for being the most secure hitch of all. In quite a few books and references, it'll say that. It did fairly well my test here. It did come a little bit loose though. And you can work it out. So I came up with an improvement. Let's try that double constrictor hitch one more time. And you can see I'm reefing on it pretty good here. And the second time I did better, but it still loosened up a little. I think if you tied a really good double constrictor, it would hold. But I came up with this idea, since the Snuggle Hitch did so well, let's add a half hitch to the double constrictor knot. So that's what I'm doing here. So you have to make sure you have enough cord left over so you can do your half hitch at the end. And I don't know if this knot is actually illustrated in Ashley's book. I highly doubt it. This is just some combination that I came up with on my own. And it seems to be the most secure of all of the hitches that I tried. So it appears that none of the hitches are actually all that great, unless they have a half hitch at the end, like the Snuggle Hitch, or, as in this example, the most secure hitch of all is the double constrictor with a Snuggle Hitch, with a half hitch. So it's a double constrictor Snuggle Hitch, I guess you could call it. And yeah, I think I would trust my life with this hitch right here. It's a good one, or at least to secure my boat overnight. Thanks for joining.